Trump's deportation plan could start next week in Chicago. The incoming Trump administration has planned an ambitious and controversial immigration operation, Operation Safeguard, set to begin shortly after the president-elect's inauguration in January 2025. The operation is aimed at significantly increasing deportations of undocumented immigrants, particularly targeting sanctuary cities like Chicago. Details of planned immigration raids are unclear, but they would be the opening step in the president-elect's goal of overseeing the largest deportation program in history. The incoming Trump administration has planned for post-inauguration immigration raids in Chicago next week, according to two people familiar with the planning and correspondence reviewed by the New York Times, an opening step in President-elect Donald J. Trump's goal to oversee the largest deportation operation in American history. The plan, called Operation Safeguard by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, would start on Tuesday, the day after Mr. Trump is inaugurated, and last until the following Monday, according to the people familiar with it and the correspondence. The dates were still being finalized, however, and could change. On Saturday, after the plan was reported by news media outlets, including the New York Times, Tom Homan, Mr. Trump's border czar, said that the reports had increased officer safety risks. Chicago's not off the table after the reports, he said, but no decision has been made yet. The size of the planned operation was unclear. ICE routinely conducts deportations in cities throughout the United States. The agency was taking additional steps to ramp up enforcement for the operation and tied it to Mr. Trump's inauguration in a message sent to personnel throughout the agency. Hundreds of agents were asked to volunteer and participate in the post-inauguration operation targeting immigrants in the United States illegally. ICE is planning on sending roughly 150 agents to Chicago for the raids. For Mr. Trump, the optics of immigration agents sporting ballistic gear and arresting immigrants with uncertain or contested status in a Democratic-led city could be enough. The incoming administration is eager to find ways to send a message that it is cracking down on undocumented immigrants and punishing so-called sanctuary cities communities like Chicago that refuse to hand over immigrants detained by the police to federal immigration authorities. Don Terry, a spokesman for the Chicago police, said the department would not intervene or interfere with any other government agencies performing their duties, but said that it does not document immigration status and, following municipal code, will not share information with federal immigration authorities. The planned raids were first reported by the Wall Street Journal. Mr. Homan has said the public should expect immigration action in the early days of the Trump presidency that creates shock and awe. Mr. Trump has promised to carry out mass deportations that would target millions of unauthorized immigrants in the United States. Mr. Homan has said the administration will not hesitate to deport parents who are in the country illegally but have U.S.-born children. Mr. Trump's team also plans to reassign other federal agents and deputize local police officers and members of the National Guard voluntarily contributed by Republican-run states to help with the deportation efforts. Mr. Homan has tried to draw attention to the so-called sanctuary cities. In November, he suggested that he would ramp up the number of federal immigration officers in those areas. New York City, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles. The major cities in this country are still sanctuary cities, Mr. Homan said then, adding, "If they're not going to help us, then we'll just double the manpower in those cities." But plans to deport millions of undocumented immigrants are still likely to face enormous financial and logistical hurdles. In recent weeks, Mr. Trump and his immigration officials have said their immigration operation would first target those with a criminal record. Mr. Trump often threatened nationwide deportation raids when he was last in the White House, shocking many of his ICE officials. He achieved mixed results. In 2019, Mr. Trump promoted a blitz-like effort to target roughly 2,000 migrants who were in the United States illegally as a show of force against migration. Just 35 people were detained in the operation. In 2019, ICE removed more than 267,000 people, the highest annual total during the Trump administration. That pales in comparison to the high mark that occurred under President Barack Obama, who deported more than 400,000 people in 1 year. While the execution of such a large-scale deportation operation presents logistical and financial hurdles, the Trump administration is committed to ramping up immigration enforcement. The focus on targeting immigrants with criminal records in sanctuary cities signals the beginning of what could be a highly contentious and impact policy.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel US Immigration News. We hope you are doing great. In this video, we are going to talk about Trump's Deportation Plan to start next week in Chicago. The incoming Trump administration planned to launch a significant immigration operation called Operation Safeguard shortly after this inauguration in January 2025. The raids are expected to target undocumented immigrants in cities, particularly Chicago, which is a sanctuary city that does not cooperate with the federal immigration authorities. While details about the size of the operation are still unclear, reports suggest that around 150 ICE agents will be deployed to Chicago. The raids are part of Trump's broader goal for overseeing the largest deportation effort in the US history, targeting millions of unauthorized immigrants. The operation timing aims to coincide with the Trump inauguration, sending a clear message about this administration intent to crack down on illegal immigration, particularly in Democratic-led cities that refuse to comply with the federal policies. Tom Homan, Trump's border seizure, acknowledged that a public awareness of the raids could increase risk for officer safety. Despite this, the operation is expected to go ahead with the goal of creating what Homan described as a shock empire in the early days of Trump's presidency. In response to the raids, Chicago police have stated that they will not interfere with the federal immigration operations. However, they also emphasize that they do not collect or share immigration status information with the federal authorities. The raids are expected to focus on immigrants with criminal records, but the operation faces significant logistical and financial challenges. This is a critical aspect of Trump's promise to carry out mass deportation, a key component of his immigration platform. In contrast, ICE removed over 267,000 individuals that year, the highest number during Trump's presidency. However, this figure still falls short of the record set under President Obama, who deported more than 4 lakh people in a single year. Despite these challenges, as a Trump administration is focused on increasing deportation efforts and plans to resign federal agents to sanctuary cities. These cities, including New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, are seen an obstacle to enforcement. The focus on deporting immigrants with a criminal records expected to be a starting point for the administration wider plan, though the overall success and implementation of the program remain uncertain.